Coming up, a new life sciences corridor taking shape in Indiana with room to grow. Hundreds of millions of dollars in investment and new higher paying jobs. Mayor Scott Fadness is here with plans to make Fishers a global life sciences destination. Indiana has built a reputation as a global manufacturing mecca, and now Governor Eric Holcomb says there are signs the state is building an emerging profile in innovation and research and development. We'll go in depth with the governor on what's fueling the R&D growth. Plus,
well, the biggest thing is construction is now underway and full speed ahead.
An update on the $286 million Phase 1 of Electric Works in downtown Fort Wayne. Details on those stories and much more ahead on this edition of Inside Indiana Business. Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. The life sciences, an $80 billion industry in Indiana, economic impact that touches nearly every county in the state. And there are signs of a new emerging life sciences cluster in Hamilton County. The latest example, Italy-based Stevanato Group announcing plans to build a $145 million manufacturing plant in Fishers. An investment expected to create more than 230 jobs, and more may be on the way. Pleased to be joined by Mayor Scott Fadness with details on a strategy to make Fishers a life sciences hub. And Mayor, thanks for taking the time to join us from City Hall.
Glad to be here, Gary.
Okay, the brand that you've created there in Fishers is about innovation and entrepreneurship and technology, but seemingly more on the kind of the IT technology side. Life sciences has kind of popped up as a real sweet spot.
Yeah, we saw an opportunity, as we exited COVID last year. Incog Pharmaceutical decided to locate in Fishers, and we saw a real competitive advantage here in Central Indiana. The idea that we had people that knew how to make things in manufacturing and had a deep understanding of life sciences. We found that was a really great opportunity for us to double down in an industry we weren't as used to. And since Incog Pharmaceutical came along, we've been racking up a number of investments, a number of wins, so to speak, in that life sciences area. And we think there's a tremendous momentum at our back right now.
Okay, I think one of the most recent announcements, Stevanato Group, as mentioned, an Italy-based company announcing plans for a big investment there, $145 million, 230 jobs. And you've purchased some additional land, so you really think there is more to come in terms of life sciences investment in Fishers?
Absolutely. We're very optimistic. In fact, tonight I'm on a call with an international opportunity, life sciences. We've got a number of conversations ongoing. So I don't think Stevanato will be the last announcement when it comes to life sciences in the city of Fishers. We really do think this is an emerging market that we can be successful at.
What does it bring to the mix, in your view, from a business standpoint to Fishers, and then more broadly to the Indianapolis region, to have this cluster and a growing life sciences cluster in your community?
I think it's a couple of things. One, what a tremendous opportunity to bring good paying jobs and good investment into the boundaries of municipalities. It used to be that in a suburban environment, you wouldn't want to necessarily put manufacturing in your suburban environment because it didn't do well with the neighborhoods that were there. This is really clean technology. These are great jobs, great investment. It's complementary to the environment around it. Secondly, I think if we can demonstrate a proof of concept here in Fishers about what can be done and the opportunities that abound, I really do hope all of Central Indiana takes a hard look at this, because if Fishers can be successful at this, Indianapolis can be successful, Carmel, Greenwood, it doesn't matter. Central Indiana has the core elements to really do well in this area.
You talk about the core elements, and you see this growth in life sciences, not necessarily in maybe how people would view a traditional a pharmaceutical company like a Lilly in drug development and manufacturing, but in fulfillment and in some of the support for the industry. And you talk about the distribution and logistics and the airport and FedEx and all of the assets here in Central Indiana that can help it grow.
You're exactly right. I mean, this goes beyond the person in the white lab coat inventing the next best drug. This is really about how are we going to manufacture the drug? How are we going to fulfill the orders? How are we going to distribute it? What about quality assurance and research and development that can be farmed out? There's an entire subculture, entire different industry sector with billions and billions of dollars out there that we can be capturing and be successful out here in Central Indiana. And that's the area that we're really focusing on is those types of industries. And I tell you, keep an eye on Fishers. I think we're going to, throughout this year, I don't think it's unheard of for us to hit $500 million of life science investment in a year here in Central Indiana and in Fishers. So I think there's real opportunity.
Well, it's a big number. We're showing some of the other companies who've committed to Fishers here in recent weeks and months. And as you mentioned to me before we started the interview, overall, not just life sciences, but economic development and investment here in 2021, even in the face of the pandemic, has been a strong year, at least so far, for Fishers. Yeah,
it's been great on a variety of industry sectors. Some of our older office space is getting filled up. We were concerned about that going vacant, obviously. Our restaurant industry is roaring at the moment here with the yard and different developments. And our tech sector is holding strong. So we really do think we're in a good place. We're continuing to diversify our economy and more to come.
Yeah, and a final question, a lot of work and a lot of development, a lot of change in downtown, the heart of downtown Fishers. How's progress going with downtown development?
It's fantastic. The tunnel is finishing up. And frankly, if you've been by here lately, First Internet Bank's new corporate headquarters is going to be an extraordinary asset in our community. So, yeah, the face of Fishers, the downtown area is really changing, and we can't wait to get some of these projects done and get them open.
Fishers Mayor Scott Fadness, thank you for joining us. Life sciences, a major focus area for the city that will be going ahead in the months ahead as well. Mayor Fadness, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, Indiana's 51st governor says he's had his eye on the bullseye even as a young kid, shooting a bow and arrow with his brother growing up in Claremont. There's a nice shot of the governor in younger days. He shares his vision for the state evolving into a research and development hub. That's when we come back. It's time to go inside innovation, brought to you by Allegion, pioneering safety. Well, Indiana has built a reputation as a global manufacturing mecca. Now, Governor Eric Holcomb says he's seeing an emerging profile in the state in innovation and research and development. The governor is my guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast. He says even in the face of a pandemic, the state is on pace for a record year in economic development. As an example, Amazon, Apple, and Toyota all announcing investments totaling nearly $2 billion with thousands of potential jobs. The governor says the state is also making big gains in the R&D sector.
One thing about Indiana is, we are a powerhouse when it comes to manufacturing, advanced manufacturing. We are a powerhouse. Our reputation precedes us in terms of distribution. Mm-hmm. We're now increasingly becoming a player on the big stage in terms of the research and development. And so you're seeing us lean more and more into that phase of the whole process. Those are higher wages, but that requires us to then reinvest with the revenue, and that responsibility comes reinvesting more so in job training and skilling up our workforce to be able to compete with others around the world. We're getting very choosy and picky about projects that we go after. And I say that because during the pandemic, through the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, we hit a record number of new job commitments coming to the state because businesses didn't shut down forever. They've got to grow or they will die. Mm-hmm. Even in the face of a pandemic. And so they were making investments, doing the analysis, and they were looking at places, good ecosystems where they could grow. And Indiana was on their radar more times than not. That allowed us to go over 31,000 new job commitments. When you look at where we are this July compared to last July, we're about 5,000 more jobs right now than we were last July when we broke the record. We're at about 3.89 billion in capital investments. We were in just under 2 at this time in July last time. We're 40, 50, almost 50 projects completed than we were at this time than last year. And the wages are higher too. At this time, we're about $2 higher. So we continue to knock on about $30 an hour average hourly wage. And so that's what we're going to keep leaning into that. So if you see those new job commitments come down, it's only because, well, not only, but one of the central reasons will be because we're going for a higher wage job. We are also now, unlike ever before, because we can, we've positioned ourselves to invest in quality of place. And oftentimes when you're trying to attract talent and millennials and the talent of the future, you've got to have places where people want to live, oftentimes more than where they want to work.
Much more of my interview with Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb, including why running for governor was not a slam dunk decision. He's my guest on the Business and Beyond podcast. To check it out, just go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com and click on the subscribe tab. A game changer in downtown Fort Wayne. Mary Rachel Redmond takes us inside the transformation of the old GE manufacturing complex into the multi-million-dollar mixed-use innovation hub, Electric Works. Here's what's making news now around Indiana. Well, it has been a little over 3 years now since plans for the $440 million mixed-use development known as Electric Works was announced in Fort Wayne. Around Indiana reporter Mary Rachel Redmond is in Allen County with an update on phase 1 of construction.
The Fort Wayne metro area is one of the fastest growing cities in the Great Lakes region. Over the last decade, more than $1 billion has been invested in the heart of downtown. And perhaps there's no bigger project than the historic revitalization of a place that once employed roughly half the city.
Hundreds of millions of dollars have been put into General Electric plants and equipment.
It's taking this enormous, tremendous asset that was a historical part of our city, and it's revitalizing it for our people today. And it's really exciting to this community to think about what all that can entail.
There are any number of communities that would love to have buildings of this size, this scale, and this quality really ready for redevelopment like this. So there are certainly challenges, especially when you get into 100 and 125-year-old historic brick buildings. But the features and the benefits they offer, you just can't really get a lot of times in new construction. While the character it offers, from the ceiling height and the windows and the natural light and just the quality of the construction, all of those things add up to a really unique kind of experience when everything's said and done.
As you can see behind me, construction on Electric Works is underway. The first phase is expected to be complete in fall of 2022, and once completed, the estimated economic impact annually will be nearly $400 million, a big coup for Fort Wayne. Electric Works will be home to the region's very first food hall and public market. Officially dubbed Union Street Market, it will feature over 20 vendors daily, as well as a year-round farmers market. But perhaps most importantly, the new venue will also help address food deserts and access to healthy food options for surrounding neighborhoods.
Union Street Market will be a really unique and rich mix of refreshment and entertainment opportunities for people who work here, people who want to come and visit, people who live nearby to be able to walk. Really kind of modeled on the public market experience you find in large cities across the country.
However, the first building scheduled to go live in August of 22 is a new STEAM high school that will give students the opportunity to experience project-based curriculum with on-site companies and entrepreneurs, almost mirroring the same kind of training that happened on that same GE campus nearly 100 years ago.
Hundreds of thousands of training hours have been given to young men like these.
So it'll be a STEAM school focused on high school for grades 9 through 12. And the students here will really get a unique experience on site with businesses and organizations and entrepreneurial programs that they'll be able to really almost embed and do kind of project-based curriculum with. So it'll be a very exciting, unique model for not just Fort Wayne, not just Indiana, but for the country as a whole.
And officials tell me once the entire three-phase Electric Works project is complete, it will quite literally and figuratively change the landscape of downtown Fort Wayne as we know it.
And we've always seen Electric Works as part of broader downtown development, sort of integrative with a lot of things in other neighborhoods around us, lifting those neighborhoods up, helping them benefit from the development taking place downtown. We see it as kind of that central corridor where a lot of it's going to really help expand what people think of when they think of downtown Fort Wayne.
Mary Rachel Redman, Inside Indiana Business.
All right, Mary Rachel, thank you. A lot going on in Fort Wayne. Well, also making headlines around Indiana this week, Rolls-Royce Corporation in Indianapolis announced a multi-million-dollar investment in testing operations at the Purdue Aerospace District in West Lafayette. The company says the facilities will be used to test high-altitude and hybrid electric engines for the next generation of U.S. military aircraft. The Purdue Research Foundation says the project will include 3 new facilities and an expansion of an existing building. Warren White is the head of assembly and test for Rolls-Royce Defense in Indy, and he says the announcement could be just the beginning, hinting that additional projects may be announced in the months ahead. Fort Wayne-based Steel Dynamics is planning a $230 million expansion at its Terre Haute facility. The company says it will add nearly 400,000 square feet of space to the Heartland facility in the Vigo County Industrial Park and also create more than 80 jobs. The Terre Haute Economic Development Corporation says those new jobs have an average annual wage of about $80,000. Steel Dynamics requesting a 10-year tax abatement for that project. And Knox County, Indiana Economic Development says it has completed a comprehensive housing study. That study analyzes current gaps in the local housing market and identifies potential sites that are ready to meet existing and future demand. Key takeaways include the housing stock is aging in Knox County, with 91% built prior to 1990, and also that inventory of for-sale housing is shrinking. The report shows significant potential for new residents within a 60-minute drive of Knox County. Well, this month's Trendiana segment is a palate pleaser for sandwich lovers. Yelp's Brittany Smith hits Hoosier highways to sample the best as Indiana celebrates National Sandwich Month. Well, a sandwich can be the perfect meal any time of day. In honor of National Sandwich Month, we've rounded up really 6 of the top spots for sandwiches, according to Yelp data around Indiana. In this month's Trendiana segment, Yelp's Senior Regional Lead of Community and Marketing, Brittany Smith, has more on Vietnamese sandwiches in Fort Wayne and a space-themed cafe in New Albany, and a lot more in a roundup that is tasty from start to finish. Brittany, welcome as always.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
Yeah, I think sandwiches, food in general has become a lot more diverse around the state of Indiana, and there are all kinds of sandwiches that one can try these days. And we begin with your tour here in Indianapolis at a very popular spot, Goose the Market.
Yeah, this is a staple that's been around since 2007, and it's not only a salameria and delicatessen, but it's actually somewhere you can also find a lot of great veggie sandwich options and breakfast sandwiches. Folks love their Batali sandwich and the Goose sandwich. You can't go wrong with either of those, and they're curing their own meats, which makes it even more special. And they just started kicking back off some new in-person events, which we've all missed, classes like oyster shucking, some yoga paired with cheese and wine. So it's a really fun business and a part of the community. Yeah,
always a lot going on at Goose the Market. Your trips around the state are very much statewide, and let's go to Northwest Indiana in Griffith for the Grindhouse Cafe.
Yeah, they're known not only for their great sandwiches, but they describe them as their fancy pants lattes, which I love, a fun way of saying it. They are known not only for their pulled pork in their Yelp reviews, but also the chicken sandwich and the Croak Grindhouse, which has some great cheese and ham. So good crowd pleaser, maybe for someone who's looking for a classic.
A lot of places, a number of places, you can get a really good Cuban sandwich, including right here in Indianapolis on the northwest side.
Yeah, Michigan and 86, the Cuban Sandwich Shop. This is a little slice of Havana right here in Indy. And folks really love their pan con lechon, which is a roast pork sandwich. It's got the grilled onions, light mayo, toasted on Cuban bread. And while you're there, you probably should pick up some coconut flan too. It's really popular.
Good stuff. Let's go to Northeast Indiana and Fort Wayne. And I think I'm pronouncing this right. Banh Mi Barista?
You got it. That's right. And if you're new to banh mi and you've never had one before, it's on a French baguette, but it's filled with lots of great Vietnamese ingredients like pickled carrots, daikon, really refreshing. And banh mi is a great family-owned business that's really introducing the Fort Wayne area to great Vietnamese cuisine. Some of their most populars are the banh mi sandwich, like I mentioned, and they're making all those in-house ingredients filled right there.
Really statewide in flavor, if you will, this month. Brittany, New Albany, Southeast Indiana. And this maybe gets the award for being the most unique, and that's Lady Tron's.
That's so true. From the pictures you can see, it's got a fun sci-fi space-themed decor. It's truly from top to bottom a fun atmosphere, and some really innovative sandwiches as well. They're known for their Ripley, which is a juicy pulled chicken simmered in a blueberry molasses sauce with some sesame slaw. Makes me hungry just thinking about it. And their fried fish sandwich. Both sound really great.
And our last stop this month, we pop back up to Northwest Indiana, Michigan City for Panini Panini.
Yeah, this is a spot that frequently makes our top list of places to eat in the state of Indiana and known for their great friendly customer service, hard to beat. They also have a lot of great vegan and vegetarian options on their menu. One of the standouts, these are both with a little meat and fish, but chicken pesto sandwich and the grilled scallop sandwich, which are kind of hard to come by in Indiana.
Well, Brittany, after each and every one of your segments, I'm always hungry. That is certainly the case this time around. In celebration of National Sandwich Month, a great tour around the state of Indiana. Brittany, great to see you, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks so much, Gary.
All right. Well, Indiana State University is taking steps designed to attract and retain freshman students. It's a big initiative. Details on what ISU calls one of its most important initiatives in recent memory. Also ahead, a first for the Parkview Miro Center for Research and Innovation in Fort Wayne. One of its scientists has been awarded a grant to examine a parent's cell phone habits and the impact on mental health. Stay with us. Well, Indiana State University is launching an institutional initiative that may be a first of its kind in the nation. It's called Indiana State Advantage. It includes financial incentives for incoming freshmen to explore opportunities outside the classroom as well, a tuition-free guarantee, and a 4-year degree guarantee as well. For more on the initiative, we are pleased to be joined in studio by Indiana State University President Deborah Curtis. And President Curtis, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Gary.
This is the Indiana State Advantage is a big deal. I mean, this is, in your view, as we were talking off camera, as important an initiative as the university has launched in recent memory.
It absolutely is. It's consolidating for students and families the clear advantage to choosing Indiana State for a college degree. You know, as we come out of the pandemic, families are even more focused. And it has 3 pieces to it. One is certainly a last dollar in meaning for Pell eligible students, the difference between their aid and grants and the cost of tuition. We will cover that for in-state Indiana 3.0 and above students. That means there shouldn't be any kind of barrier to come to college and finish that degree. A second piece is our experiential learning focus, and that's all about getting hands-on experiences. So up to $3,000 for each student to do an internship, perhaps a service project, some research with a faculty member, or indeed study abroad. And that's what we want our students to be engaged in. And then the third piece of this is that 4-year graduation guarantee for students who stay stay on track, and that's the requirement. If for some reason the university is unable to complete you in those 4 years, that's on us.
Yeah, those are three big areas. And as you put this together, you wanted to do something bold, I know, and you believe this may be the only program of its kind at a public university in the country.
Well, indeed, and that's the model at Indiana State. Students enjoy a private school type of experience at a good-sized public institution with the resources that we have, and some of those would be world-class faculty, labs and classroom spaces, and opportunities to do work like we're doing right now with state-of-the-art equipment. And we're really proud of that's what students get to do when they come to Indiana State.
Yeah, you mentioned the significant financial incentives and also mentioned the out-of-classroom piece as well. I assume that's what study abroad, internships, those types of things kind of rounds the program out, I assume.
Oh, it truly does. And Gary, you're probably aware of this, but across the nation, most of us receive more international students than we send. And that's really important for our students to see themselves as global citizens, and we want them going overseas to other countries where they don't speak the primary language and realizing what it means to be a global citizen.
The potential impact, I know, obviously, on the university, on students, the Terre Haute region, the talent pipeline. How do you see this ultimately impacting the talent pipeline here in Indiana?
Well, certainly we always share the message Indiana State University is the state of Indiana's university because most of our students come from Indiana, most of them stay here, and we align our program offerings with the workforce needs of the state of Indiana. So these three pieces that we're launching really are not the only part of the Indiana State Advantage, but that's certainly going to be the relevant parts for students coming in.
Yeah, so this launches essentially in the fall of 2022, but you are going to really begin rolling this out from an awareness standpoint very soon.
Well, indeed, and we will be delivering that broader message about other parts of the Indiana State Advantage. But for our current students, many of them enjoy these opportunities now. We're focusing them, and we're making sure people know they're available, and we're making sure every student has this available to them.
So you're about to welcome students back on campus after a very tumultuous year, obviously with the pandemic. Going to be a mask mandate, I think, right out on the campus, as many other campuses are doing. As you look at getting back to some normalcy in the face of what we're facing now with the pandemic, how are things going?
Well, indeed, we have just shifted, given the change in CDC guidance and messaging from the state of Indiana, to everyone masking inside in public spaces or where social distancing is impossible. But we all really believe if that's the most difficult thing we have to do, we're going to return to 100% capacity, doing all the activities and engagement opportunities students love. That's a small price to pay.
All right. The Indiana State Advantage, a major initiative just now being launched at Indiana State University in Terre Haute. Dr. Deborah Curtis, the president of the university. Thanks for joining us as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Hoosier parents, many of them in the Fort Wayne area, will soon be part of a study looking at phone habits and how they could be impacting their babies. Researchers at the Parkview Miro Center for Research and Innovation in Fort Wayne are leading the study. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has more. Kylie.
Thanks, Gary. The study is also an important milestone for Parkview. The research is supported by a grant from the National Institutes of Health, and it marks the first time the Fort Wayne Health System has earned an NIH grant. Dr. Brandon McDaniel is a research scientist on Miro's Health Services and Informatics research team, and he joins me now to tell us more about the study. Thanks for being on the show today, Brandon, and congratulations on the grant.
Thank you. So glad to be here with you. We're very excited for this.
All right. Well, I think one thing we should talk about right off the top here is that you say with this study, you're not trying to throw parents under the bus, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because we're all in this together. We live in the age now where there's so much technology around us all the time, and we're all on our smartphones, and it's just the way it is. So we're not trying to sit here and say, oh, everything you're doing is bad. We already all have that guilt. We're trying to understand the potential good, some of the pitfalls, and work to make things better.
Okay, so a good introduction to your study right there. So give us an overview of what the study is about. What are you looking at?
So we're trying to understand parents' phone use, their smartphone habits, digital habits, the ways in which they're using their technology on a daily basis. Really, ultimately, we're trying to understand those things because again, there's some pitfalls. There's ways in which it might start to get in the way of some of our interactions that we have with others or some of the time we spend with our children. But there's also ways it can support us and help us in our parenting and connect us with others. And we want to figure out what that means for parents. And there's probably some ways that it's influencing them and their mental health in good ways, and some ways it's not. And we want to try to really understand that, figure out what that's doing, and be able to implement something around that to help people.
Okay, and so this study is really focused on babies, about newborn to 6 months range. Give us an idea of what a good, healthy interaction looks like and how cell phones can sort of interrupt that.
Yeah, so when we're talking about infants, it's all about eye contact and joint attention, taking the time to really notice and understand the infant's needs. So if you're sitting there on the couch with your infant, being able to notice that they're looking at you, that they want some of your attention. And the problem with if we're on our devices a lot is we might miss that eye contact completely. We might not notice that they have a need at that particular time, or maybe we're doing something on the device, we notice they have the need, but we delay our response to them. And if that's happening a lot, then that's when I start to worry about it a little bit, because that could influence how the infant feels about that relationship, the type of a bond that they form with their parent. If it's just every once in a while, again, we're not trying to make parents feel super guilty here. It's every once in a while, that's probably not a problem. But if it becomes a really big trend, then that's what we worry about.
Okay, such an interesting topic. Can you explain how are you going to go about studying that? What are you going to do?
So we're coming at this with a multi-pronged sort of approach. We've got surveys, online surveys we're going to have parents do, where we're getting at more of what they think their technology habits look like, how they are feeling, what their mental health is like, those sorts of things. But then we also are going to be installing an app on parents' phone, so we can get at what their phone use actually looks like in real time across 8 days, and also have them complete some nightly online surveys on those same 8 days, so they can tell us, when they were with their infant that day, what it was like when they were feeding, all these, what their sleep habits were like, so we can start to connect their phone use in real time with what their habits are like in real life, and get a better understanding of what their phone use is, how it's linking up with what's going on in their life. Ultimately, after that, too, we'll have some interviews and other surveys we're doing so we can better understand why they might be doing certain things, what that means for them, how it's supporting them, whether it's getting in the way of things, whether it makes them feel guilty or not, all those other pieces, so we can have a really good understanding of what it means to them, too, not just that it might look like it's connected.
And the big end goal here is to develop programming to help parents. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
Yeah, so right now we don't know exactly what that'll look like, but all the information we're trying to glean and understand from this, we're going to take that, synthesize that together, so that hopefully we can have figured out what was good about it, what are some of the potential pitfalls, and what are some of the ways that parents find that are actually amenable, good ways that could actually help them in what's happening in their life and with their phone use. And because really we just want to help people to develop what we call healthy digital habits, because they're here to stay. The smartphone's here to stay. All of our use of this is here, and in a lot of ways it helps us. But we want to avoid those pitfalls of the ways in which it might take us away from our infant, and build on those ways in which it's supporting us and our parenting and our mental health. So what we're hoping in the end to have enough information to design some programming that'll help people to know what to avoid, what to do, how to do it, so they can build healthy, strong relationships.
All right, Dr. McDaniel, thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thank you.
And Gary, back to you.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Well, the General Motors Fort Wayne assembly plant in Roanoke will once again be shut down due to a part shortage. Our partners at WPTA in Fort Wayne report production will stop for the second time in a matter of weeks due to the ongoing semiconductor shortage. Employees were called back to the Roanoke plant just this past Monday after the most recent pause in production. WPTA says the new shutdown takes place Monday, and the week ahead will again last 1 week. The global shortage has hampered the ability for the automaker and many other companies around the world. And this automaker, GM in Fort Wayne, really having trouble producing the Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra. Those units are built at the plant. A small Indiana college with some big plans. Next, details on new developments at St. Mary of the Woods College, new buildings, a new PhD program, and a new men's basketball program. Stay with us. Small but mighty could be a good way to describe St. Mary of the Woods College in Vigo County. It's Indiana's oldest Catholic college with an enrollment of 530 students on campus, and it is on a bit of a roll. The college christening a new dining and residence hall in the week ahead, the first in more than a century at the school. St. Mary of the Woods also debuting a new PhD program in global leadership and starting up a men's basketball program this fall. For more on the growth and development, pleased to be joined by St. Mary of the Woods President Dottie King. And President King is always welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
There is a lot, as I mentioned in the introduction there, a lot going on. I know you unveiled the facilities, a master plan a few months ago. Big developments in that in the week ahead as you're christening a new dining hall and residence hall, the first in more than 100 years.
Yes, we are, and we're really excited about it. The students are. You know, there's a sense of awe as they walk in and look around. It's fun to see that on their faces.
Yeah, and I know you've got a new name or a name for the new residence hall as well, right?
We do. We were founded by French nuns, and so we stayed with that theme, and so the name is Les Bois, and it means the woods.
Yeah, and so these are significant investments, obviously, and the residence hall, I think, will have room for nearly 100 students. Which is significant and points to, I guess, your vision, kind of looking ahead, looking to the future and looking for continued growth.
It does. I have to tell you, I'm a little afraid, though. I thought with the first residence hall in 100 years, we thought this would hold us for quite a while, and we're already counting beds and wondering how soon before we need another one.
Really?
So we really are seeing that.
We'll talk about enrollment growth. Certainly the world of higher education is very competitive, very challenging. You're looking to welcome in, I think, some really strong numbers. How do you view the enrollment situation at St. Mary of the Woods?
Well, I think that we've always been an excellent choice for students, but I think now we're finding ways for students to know that. And I think that with our addition of athletics and really the updates we've made to campus, we make it a better experience for them. And I think there are a lot of things that we're just doing a little more strategically, and it's going well for us.
I think part of that strategic vision is your first doctoral program, right? A PhD program in global leadership. Talk about that, the significance of that, and why global leadership?
Well, first of all, for us, it was about diversifying and moving ourselves forward. We've been very successful with master's level programs and have several that we're proud of. And so it was the logical next step. We chose global leadership, really not. I didn't choose it. We had a group that studied it, and we looked around and used research and what are the needs in our country that we can best address, and we came up with global leadership.
And you, as we were talking off camera before the interview, you kind of hinted at the fact that you think maybe because of the pandemic, the global leadership, that topic is more germane than ever.
I really think so. I think that I said it's put an exclamation point on our decision because if ever there's a time that we could see firsthand that the world is going to face challenges that needs a global thought process.
Athletics is another area. We're talking about expansion and growth. I know you're launching a men's basketball program here in the next number of weeks. Talk about that and why you're doing that.
Well, first of all, isn't it kind of funny to be a Hoosier and just now launching men's basketball? But we started, when we added men to our campus, we started with easier things to add that didn't require facilities updates and so on, so cross country and golf. But really, we got ourselves ready, and men's basketball was natural, and it was always going to come. So we have a coach that's been a year recruiting. We had 5 players last year that were redshirting on campus, and so October 30 will be our first home game, and there's a lot of excitement around that.
And talk about, as you look to the future and growth, I mentioned, I think 500 plus students, 530 or so students on campus, but you also have a significant online presence as well. In fact, the second school in the country to launch online many years ago. So talk about where you see growth opportunities enrollment-wise.
Well, right now, I don't have anything wood to knock, but I see growth in all areas. So we don't see a spike in any one area, and therefore I think the growth is sustainable because we're just doing a lot of things better, so we're growing. So I think we will continue to add graduate programs, master's or doctoral programs. The nursing program was added a few years ago and has been a strong major. We have a Master's of Science in Nursing that prepares family nurse practitioners, and I could see another program coming out of the nursing area.
A lot going on at St. Mary of the Woods College in Western Indiana near Terre Haute. President Dottie King, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Look forward to following the progress. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Indiana's 51st governor spent the early part of his career about an hour and a half south of St. Mary of the Woods College in Vincennes. Governor Eric Holcomb is my guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast. He grew up in Claremont on the Marion-Hendricks County border, attended Pike High School, and still counts his law teacher there, Joe Drescher, as one of his mentors. Holcomb went on to graduate from Hanover College. He served in the military, returning to Indiana and moving to his mom's hometown of Vincennes. That's where he jumped into politics. He shared a fascinating story about his first meeting in Washington, D.C. with one of his political proteges, former Indiana Governor Mitch Daniels.
He was just the budget director of the Free World at the time,
Right,
for the president. And I just went out on my own and met with him and handed him a 4-page document that said, if you're seriously considering running for governor, these are things you ought to be doing right now. Didn't know him. He said, who sent you? And I said, I come on my own. These are only my thoughts. I just wrote them in the back room of my house and been thinking about this, and we need someone from the private sector to come to. I flew home back to Vincennes, and the next morning before 8 a.m. he called and he wanted to talk about those thoughts.
Really?
When I got to my office, I had a message on the machine from someone he had also called that said, connect with Eric Holcomb. He's got some interesting thoughts here. And they said, how about if we meet in Indianapolis? And I said, I've been there, done that, not impressed. How about I'll meet you halfway? And they said, name it. And I said, Double N Diner in Brazil, Indiana. And that's where we met. And
Clay County.
Clay County, Indiana, baby. And that's where we met, and coconut pie, and, half an hour lunch turned into hours, and one thing led to next, and next thing I know, I sold my house and moved up here to be part of that endeavor.
Wow. And you can hear much more of my entire conversation with Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb, including his love for basketball and passion for collecting everything from baseball cards to presidential autographs. It starts Monday, the Business and Beyond podcast. To check it out, just go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com and click on the subscribe tab. Well, 2 powerhouse college athletic programs and conference are on the move now to a new conference. What Texas and Oklahoma's shift to the SEC could mean for the Big Ten. That's when we return. Well, with Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 for the Southeastern Conference, what could be next in a college sports landscape that is roiling while its overarching governing body, the NCAA, is reeling? Bill Benner looks for some answers in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill.
Gary, thanks. Well, from power conference shakeups to name, image, likeness fallout to a damning gender equity report to an upcoming NCAA constitutional convention, college sports is facing unprecedented upheaval. Joining us today to offer his perspectives on where all might be headed is Mike DeCourcy, the highly respected college basketball analyst for the Sporting News, Big Ten Network, and Fox. And Mike, welcome. Good to see you, my friend. Crazy, crazy times. I'm old school. I still believe the Big Ten should be 10. I know, really old school. But where might all this lead, starting with Texas and Oklahoma?
Well, obviously, it completely changes the college football landscape. It You have one massive power conference, one very powerful conference in so many ways in the Big Ten, and then everybody else sort of trying to find their way. How can we sort of stay close? And I think it's a mistake, and a mistake that some leagues have made, to try to worry about the actual dollars and cents. The Big Ten is going to be able to keep pace SEC-wise with the money, but the other leagues aren't going to be able to do it. They just have to find ways, the ACC, the Pac-12, and what's left of the Big 12, to try to make as much as possible. They're never going to catch the other two.
What are the possible implications for the Big Ten? And I know Kansas was immediately tossed out there as a possible candidate. Iowa State, another. What could this lead to for the Big Ten?
You know, I think that it's interesting that the Pac-12 commissioner said what I think could apply to the Big Ten, which is that it's a very prestigious club with high barriers to entry. And honestly, other than Notre Dame, from a standpoint of a regional fit, I don't think there's anybody out there that would empower the Big Ten. And you don't want to make decisions like this that's so fundamental to your structure to react to somebody else's work. You want to do it to make yourself stronger. I don't see that out there until Notre Dame comes knocking again.
Well, and speaking of the Irish, member of the ACC, not in football, but playing an ACC predominant schedule, is there any scenario where the Irish could finally join the fold? That's been rumored forever.
Yeah, they came close 20 years or so ago, and I think the fact that they didn't go through with it certainly had some hurt feelings. Now, if they changed their minds now, nobody at the Big Ten would have any reason to say no. They would absolutely embrace that idea. I just don't see it. Notre Dame has valued its independence so greatly for so long that unless a new group of people, and we're talking about maybe even another decade removed, maybe a new group of people that had different ideas could see that changing. I just can't see it happening now.
NCAA has scheduled a constitutional convention. I assume it'll take place here in Indianapolis in November. We mentioned the really damning gender equity report, men's Final Four vis-a-vis women's Final Four, name, image, likeness, many issues, including tumultuous conference activity. What do they expect to accomplish with this constitutional convention?
I think the one thing they want to try to accomplish is to try to keep the NCAA intact. I think that's the number one priority. What do we have to do to make this organization work for all our members? And I think the thing that you have to remember is that in addition to all the functional activities that they take care of and do so well at, championships and that sort of thing, the NCAA men's basketball tournament is worth $1 billion for 3 weeks of basketball. That money isn't out there in any other form. If the Power 5 school said, okay, we're going to do our own, or whatever scenario you want to present, it's not worth that much money, even a prorated share of a smaller pie. It's that NCAA tournament money it's a magical formula that they can't recreate. So there is incentive to try to find a way to keep this thing together.
Mike, as we wrap up, name, image, likeness again came out early July. There hasn't been an overwhelming number of athletes to cash in yet. How do you see that playing out as we move along?
I think the one thing about it is that we have seen athletes in both football, women's basketball, men's basketball. We've seen them in all those sports that have shortcut their development because they felt like there's money out there that I'm not making now and I need it, my family needs it, whatever. This might change that. Some of the development, the G League Ignite program, the Overtime Elite program, everybody trying to find a different way to train athletes. The best way to become a pro basketball player is still going through the NCAA. Football, obviously. And so I think from that standpoint, this might help to keep athletes in school longer, get them more educated and get them better trained.
Well, Mike, fascinating insights from the Sporting News, Fox, and the Big Ten Network. We appreciate your perspectives, and it's going to be a fascinating time as we continue to move down that highway. Gary, back to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. Well, this week, after 2 months of sharp declines, the Purdue University CME Group Ag Economy Barometer leveled off. While holding steady, Purdue ag economists say the July reading of 134 is still the weakest reading of the barometer in a year. Purdue says producers remain concerned that farm input prices are likely to rise much more sharply in the coming year. The report also reveals nearly half of corn and soybean farmers expect farmland cash rental rates to rise, potentially squeezing profit margins. The Ag Economy Barometer Sentiment Index Index is calculated each month from 400 U.S. agricultural producers' responses to a telephone survey. And I'll be right back after this. Stay with us. Coming up next week, ag high-tech startup Intellinair Incorporated has developed AI-driven crop intelligence software. How it could help farmers increase their yields and also their bottom line. Plus, she transformed a culinary mishap into a national brand. Carrie Abbott shares how she diversified and scaled her product offerings with the acquisition of a craft chocolatier. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures with support from WFYI Productions.